you so much for watching our last case, the Elvis Presley case. So tonight's case is going to be the Nicola Carter and Conrad Roy case. Now, just to make you aware, I'm a twin mum, if you don't already know. They are next to me in bed. So I have to keep the noise down, but I'm trying to master doing this while they're sleeping at night so I can start bringing the crime stories back. So, oh gosh, wish me luck. If I speak too loud, please put in the comments. It'll probably be too little too late, but but twin mum life, this is how we're doing it. So we are doing the case of Nicola Carter and Conrad Roy. Very interesting case. It was actually my daughter Morgan that put me onto this case. As soon as I looked into the case, I'm like, I definitely want to do something around this. I think the spirit box is going to be very, very interesting around it as well. If you've not heard the case before, sit back and relax. If you have been trying to contact me, I've had a few messages through my social medias. I have added a link tree. I will add it in the description so you can find me on all other social media for readings, etc. But thank you to everybody who's already showed interest. It's greatly appreciated. Right, let's get started on the case. Sit back, relax, get the kettle on. Side note. It's not Nicola Carter, it's Michele Carter. Thank God I noticed that just as we're getting to this bit of the case, or I happen to have done a full video calling this woman Nicola and her name's Michele. Just sums up my day, guys. Henry Roy was born on the 12th of September 1995. His dad was a tugboat captain. He lived with his mum, dad and two sisters. In 2011, his mum and dad separated and divorced, and it was said that Conrad had really struggled with this. It brought in social anxiety, depression and just behaviours that weren't expected from Conrad. Until that point, there was no signs of mental health or any distress or anything like that, but after the divorce, things started to change for Conrad. He was a keen baseball player and he also wanted to be a captain of the tugboat alongside what his dad already did. So he was a young teenager who was aspiring to great things. Other than the depression, the anxiety holding him back, he also couldn't sleep from the divorce around his parents, and he obviously really struggled with this. Now, we all know a lack of sleep can change our logic as well. It can also change our mindset, it can change our behaviours. He did speak out openly at times about his mental health. Also attended a therapist and eventually was given medication. In 2012, Conrad tried to take his own life with an overdose. Now, he called his friend Ariana and had told her that he'd taken these tablets. Now, Ariana had called Lynn Roy, Conrad's mum, and he was at his dad's house at the time. They sought help. They did get him, and eventually he promised he would never ever do it again. And at the time, I think family thought it was more of a spur of the moment thing, or it was more of a cry for help at that point. In 13, Lynn Roy, Conrad's mum, had said he was doing much better. His sisters had also said they had seen improvement. He seemed a little bit more motivated in himself. They did say that he did have some off days as well, but it wasn't as bad. They actually thought that he was doing better in himself. He had the want for life again. Again, a lot of people who take their own life can feel very relieved. I said this in the last case as well, so sometimes the behaviours can change because of that. But also people can be fighting it and feel very good one day and not so good the next day. And I think that's what Conrad's mum was trying to get to at that point. But they didn't suspect, she believed his promise that he would never try it again. Before that Conrad went missing, he went to the beach with his mum and sisters. They said that he was in good form. Possibly looking back now, there possibly was something planned, but they said they didn't suspect anything from Conrad. He was just his normal self, and they had a lot of fun and made a lot of memories that day. 12th of July, and that was the day that Conrad had went missing. He left the house at 6:20 that evening. Later that evening, his sister received a text from a friend who'd been texting Conrad, and they had said that they were a little concerned. They hadn't heard from him. They had been texting, they had been calling, which then triggered Conrad's sister, his mum, his dad to then keep calling him. They also couldn't get in touch with them. They contacted the emergency services straight away. Now, Conrad was 18, but due to his previous attempts on his life, he was classed as high priority and vulnerable straight away. The police were out looking for him. At first they didn't find him, and the very next day at 5:30 that evening, they did find a Ford pickup truck in a parking lot where he was slouched over. His glasses slanted to the side. Now, they couldn't open the car straight away because they knew that he'd been using fumes to do what he had done. They weren't sure what the situation was at the time. When his dad arrived, the police let his dad know that he was already dead and in the car, and his dad called his mum Lynn Roy. Camden and Morgan and his friend Ariana were all out looking for him at this time as well. So you can imagine when they took the news how horrified but how shocked they were, especially Ariana, due to the fact that the previous time that Conrad had tried to take his life, he'd contacted Ariana, who then, as you remember, had contacted his mum to raise the alarm. So again, there was a lot of shock and hysteria around the fact that he hadn't been in touch with his best friend, he hadn't been in touch with Ariana, so they were very, very shocked that one, he had been discovered, but two, that he had taken his own life. Massachusetts, that any unattended death must be investigated. So the police had took Conrad's phone, and the only reason was a formality. Now, when they opened up the phone, they realised that Conrad had deleted all the messages and threads from friends, family, sisters, mum. Now, these people have been trying to get hold of him, but had kept the threads from Michele Carter. Now, Michele Carter was a lady or a young girl that Conrad had met in Florida. They'd kept in touch through text for over a year, if not longer, but they'd only met a handful of times. He came to her grandmother's funeral. She came to a baseball game to see Conrad, but other than that, their relationship really took place online and through text message, where they would text every day. Conrad was very open with Michele about his mental health, how he was feeling on a daily basis. Michele would, at the beginning of these text messages, be always there looking out for him, giving him encouraging words, telling him he can do this, he can keep doing what he's doing type of thing. Michele Carter a little bit. Now, Michele Carter was an honours student. She lived about 40 miles away from Conrad. As I said, they had met in Florida. Now, the reason they had met was actually through a family friend, that both families knew each other, and it was said that her parents were absolutely lovely. She came from Plainville, which was more upper and middle class, where Conrad came from Fairhaven, which was more blue collar. Now, again, he'd attended the grandmother's funeral, she'd been to the baseball game. Other than that, there wasn't a lot of contact between the two of them, but text messages back and forth constantly. But on the physical side of things, they had not spent a lot of time together at all. Their very first time that they met, they did go a bike ride. They were investigating the case. The family were still very unaware at this point. They were arranging Conrad's funeral, his service, and Michele Carter was a very good support to Conrad's mum. She attended the funeral. Now, Conrad's friends had said that they had never heard anything about her. They had never heard Conrad speaking about her. Conrad's mum had said different. Yes, he did speak to Michele. She knew about it. But the friends couldn't believe how upset she was at the funeral. She was acting very much as if it was about her, and that she spent a lot of time with Conrad. But you do have to remember, you can have an online relationship or have something like that would probably bring in the same amount of hurt, but they were just very blown away that she was making it all about herself. They could actually hear her crying as the service was going on. Through that summer after Conrad's death, Michele Carter stayed very close to the Roys. She would text Lynn and say, I hope you're well, like, you can do this. She also said that I tried to save Conrad's life, you tried to save Conrad's life. And Lynn Roy said at this point, when she said that, she knew something wasn't right, just because she was quite shocked that Conrad had told Michele that he had attempted suicide, but also it then made Lynn think, well, I didn't know that he was struggling again, so did he tell you that he was, and why didn't you get in touch with us? Now, she didn't approach Michele about this, but this was the first time Conrad's mum was starting to realise something maybe wasn't right with Michele and with the situation. Over Camden had actually found a video after Conrad's death, and the video was made a month before Conrad died. I'm going to pop that in next. The family say that it just shows that he had the will to live, he wanted to live, he had dreams, he knew what he wanted to do. He was probably at the top of his game within his baseball career. He had just got his captain's licence for the tugboat as well, so this boy had a lot going for him. He obviously was very, very overwhelmed, and you can see that in the video, that he's overwhelmed, but you can also see him having these light bulb moments. And I can imagine as a family, if you come across that video, that would make this suicide even more confusing to why in that day did he not find that will again to live, because he tried already and he was doing it and he seemed to be doing better. And this came directly from people who were round about him physically on the daily.
Reporting about social anxiety. Social anxiety to me is the inability to function properly in a manner that you want to in social situations. And one of the things that I've realized is not all eyes are on you at all times. People don't necessarily judge you particularly in a situation where you're not feeling very good about yourself. You're making mistakes. Like, people understand that you come across as awkward. They're not going to judge you, make fun of you. Like, that's just who you are as an individual. And the quicker you are to realize who you are, the better. Like, you don't have to be this amazing, like, thought out, drawn out, like, superhero, like Incredible Hulk, Superman, I don't know. The people that are portrayed in the media as like perfect, when they're not perfect. I mean, if you take drugs, serious cocaine, like Bieber, oh my God, he's not perfect. Nobody's perfect. You just have to accept yourself as an individual. The hardest thing for me is to be comfortable in my own skin. Now I know. A lot of people tell me that I have a lot going for me. I have to be happy. Well, no, you don't have to be happy. Your happiness comes from what your conscious,
This was going on, that Conrad's funeral was taking place and that Michele and Lynn were getting pretty close. Michele had organised a charity event back in her own hometown for Conrad's, and it was going to a charity for suicides. Now, Conrad's friends at this point had said, why is it not in our hometown? Why wouldn't it be where Conrad came from? But they did all attend the event. Now, the reason I'm bringing this in, on the sidelines of this, while the funeral's going on, they are doing the charity event. Now, this was all within 2 months of Conrad passing, 8 weeks to be precise. Michele, as I said, her feet were under the table, but the police were also investigating the phone at this point, and what they had came across was quite a few disturbing messages. I'm going to add them in as well, but these messages were leading up to Conrad's suicide. They were telling him he can do it. There was a lot of, as I said, I will pop them in that you can have your own look at them. They are pretty disturbing, so I would say trigger warning with this. She was basically saying you can do this. Now, there was also a phone call made at 6:28 and that lasted for 48 minutes. She then calls him back at 7:12 and that lasted for 42 minutes. Now, it did come back that it was predicted that Conrad was dead from about 8 p.m. that evening. So that timeline really, really fits in with what the autopsy and what the postmortem has said. So the police are even looking further into that, at the fact that why did she call him back? And why didn't she help, or why didn't she call for help? But obviously the messages were very damning, which was building a picture for the police. I will put some of the messages in. As I said, they are very, very triggering. They are not for view for everybody. Lynn Roy did say herself there were some messages she couldn't even look at. But this is when the case blows open, where you start to realise that, was this boy suicidal or was he manipulated by words? Adding Facebook posts where, again, she was making it about herself, to the point that Conrad's friends were calling her the crazy lady. Like, they couldn't believe that someone they didn't know was gushing all over Facebook about him. They said it was just very out of character, and it was angering a lot of them because they couldn't place who this lady was. Now, the charity event that she held in her hometown, the police did get wind of this, and obviously they were investigating the phone already, so they had an idea that something was off, put it that way. So they sent undercover police officers to the event because, which is very, very interesting, they knew the text messages were coming from her phone, but because of the age of her, the phone was in her mum's name. So to rule out that it wasn't her mum, even though it didn't sound like her mum, they had to do it. They went undercover, so when they got there, they phoned her phone and they could get to see that she was the one picking it up. It just shows you, now that was like 8 weeks after Conrad died. It wasn't until 11 weeks later that they visited her school, and they basically let her know that there was a warrant for her phone. They took her phone, and she had planned to go to the police station the next day for an interview, but the very next morning the police got a phone call from Michele Carter's mum and dad's solicitor and lawyer to say that she wouldn't be speaking. So again, that's when their family got involved, and I think at that point that's when maybe her mum and dad realised the severity of what was going on, or maybe they didn't realise, because when they did say to her, and I will put some of the recording in, we need to take your phone, she was more concerned about when was she going to get it back, and you can hear her voice changing. Now you can't see it, they took an audio recording, so you can't see her face or anything, but I can imagine she'd have been a rabbit in headlights when they did eventually take the phone, considering everything that was in it. Now another part of this case was every other thread was deleted. Why did Conrad leave Michele Carter's messages but delete everything else? An extraction of the phone, and what that basically means is that it doesn't matter what you delete in the phone, they will be able to retrieve absolutely everything. Obviously they had a warrant and a search for that phone. Now the reason this had been granted was because police had reasonable concern that they felt Conrad's death could have happened and that Michele Carter was possibly responsible for it, because they were reading the messages. As I've said, I've popped them in for you, you can see them yourself. Now, she was indicted in involuntary manslaughter at that point. Now, that was the first the family seen the messages. Lynn said she's trusted Michele and did not think for a minute that Michele would be the one convincing them. I think it was an absolute shock for the family. What I do get around this case as well is, though, in looking at the messages, I think at the beginning she genuinely was trying to help him. Now, this lady or girl had a lot of bad mental health. She'd been in a psychiatric unit. She'd been receiving her own mental health care as well. So these are two characters that are speaking online, speaking towards each other, possibly not letting anyone else in round about, where they became consumed with each other's depressions and doubt. And I want to say that maybe Michele did want to help Conrad to begin with, but it's very, very evident in the messages. It then became quickly about her. Now, she was obsessed with Glee and Leah Michele. Now, if you remember rightly, in real life, Leah Michelle's partner passed away. Heath passed away on the 13th of July 2013. Conrad Roy passed away on the 12th of July 2014. Now, in the court case, it did come out that she had been quoting Glee references that the character was writing and saying at the time when she lost her boyfriend, and she was sending this to girls and friends and classmates of hers, basically quoting it. Also, it was said in the court that the people that went up and testified against her were classmates, and they said that she was very needy. Like, there was no friendship she'd ever really maintained. She would become too needy, she would become obsessed. One girl in particular's mum had to take the girl back from her because she felt that her obsession was getting a lot worse. Constant texting, appearing at houses. And you can see in the text messages with Conrad as well, she's pretty full on. But she actually told her friends 2 days before Conrad went missing that he'd went missing and he hadn't went missing, as if she was playing it out to see their reaction. Now, straight away, all these girls who didn't have a lot of contact with her wanted to help her because her boyfriend was in a bad place mentally, and she was worried he was going to do something and he went missing. So when she's seen these people's reaction, then 2 days later, when Conrad did go missing and the sad reality of what happened to Conrad, she then had all these people round about her. And if you see some of the text messages, what I will add in for you as well, she's really, really clinging on to the attention. About, even when you think back to the charity event, the police did say they noticed when they were there undercover, it was all about her, and she wanted it to be all about her. Now, again, I just think it's a bit strange with the dates with Corey Monteith's death, the Conrad Roy thing as well, because she was so obsessed with Glee and so obsessed with that character. It's crazy. It's mad how people think as well. The day that she was indicted, the next day she turned herself in. Her bond was $2,500. that's when it kicked off in the media big style. She was well hated. Everyone had something to say about it. She was getting the blame, and everything was starting to trickle out where she was becoming the most hated person. Now, this is what I do think about this case. I think we forget that both these characters are very young characters. Their relationship started a year and a half, 2 years before, so they were 16, 17. Bad mental health between both of them. She had an eating disorder as well that she'd struggled with most of her life, where that was a massive part on her behaviours as well. On the 5th of July 2017, now Michele Carter did take the stand, and that was the first time anyone had ever heard anything from her. Also taking the stand was Camden Roy, Conrad's sister, because Michele had sent her messages that night asking where he was and that she was worried. And obviously when the time scale came in at this point, it had proved that actually she already knew he was dead, even though she was texting to say she was worried and missing where he was. So Camden had stood against her. There was also 5 other classmates that stood against her. And that's where all the obsessive behaviour came out. One lady had said that she actually messaged her saying, listen, I can't help you with this. I think you need to speak to people closer to home. So there's a lot of sensible girls in there that knew this was wrong behaviour, but also she was living out the dream of this Leah Michele with Glee, and that everyone was giving her attention. Sorry about this, guys. There we go. It's not so bad. That's the first time tonight, but the two of them are awake. Hold fire. That Michele Carter had been given antidepressants, Prozac, at 14. And due to her anorexia, she couldn't always play her sports, which would also be another reason that would change her mood at times. It does seem that she'd went through a lot. She'd also been in a psychiatric ward, and she loved playing sports apparently. Now, another girl on the softball team, Alice, Michele had told Libby that she spoke to a psychiatrist about Alice and that she was obsessed with Alice. Alice felt that Michele was texting too much, and that was the friendship where the mum was like, enough's enough. It strikes me that this girl was desperate to be loved, or maybe didn't have a sense of belonging around friendships, and a lot of people in the trial did say that she didn't actually have one friend to hold on to, or that was a good friend, or that looked at her as a good friend. But she would say this to these people in the text messages, I'm just so glad you're my friend. And they said it was just very, very needy and coming off that way. And when Conrad passed, these girls were trying to help her, but they said that it was becoming very needy, very obsessive, and it's like she was kind of enjoying it. Was Sam Boardman. Now, Michele and Sam had an unlikely friendship where that Michele would text constantly. Sam said that she didn't understand boundaries, but the night that Conrad committed suicide, she'd sent Sam a text, and Sam had basically said, I'm here for you if you ever need anything, which she would do. Obviously feeling sorry for the girl, she's just lost her boyfriend, or so she said to Sam. Now, Michele sent Sam a text the next night after Conrad committed suicide. She told her, I could have stopped him, I failed him. I was on the phone, he got out the car because I think he got scared, and I told him to get back in. Now, that was one of the most crucial parts of that trial, because that was her admitting that she had coaxed him into doing this. But not just that, she had also told him to get back in the car, which would make sense around the phone calls and the text messages and the timeline. Again, this girl had a massive obsession, and when you see the messages, as you can see, she's saying, do it, I need you to do it, I need you to do it, or you have to do it. What was the rush about doing it so much? The defence and the prosecution, the defence used the fact that she was on Prozac and that she had been depressed, and the doctor came in and did a medical evaluation where he said that it could have been the medication, right down to the date. She'd been quite unstable from the 2nd of July, which in the end worked out wasn't true, but they tried to use that whether the prosecuting side basically said, like, no, she's obsessive behaviour, boundaries, and these messages definitely coaxed Conrad into taking his own life. The fact that she told him to get back in the car was possibly the eye-opener, but the whole changing of the case as well. A low blow in the trial, and they did say that earlier, 6 weeks before Conrad passed away, the police had dealt with a domestic abuse at Conrad's dad's house, and it was said that Conrad had phoned the police and alleged that his dad had punched him. When the police got there, he did have a swollen face, and it was to do with the fact he hadn't done the dishes. Now, they used this to say that, again, he was already unhinged, things weren't right. But his dad was never, ever charged with that. The the trial that a jury would not decide the verdict, that it would be a judge. So the judge sat and listened through the whole trial. It took 3 days for a verdict. Now, he eventually gave Michele Carter 15 months for involuntary manslaughter. She was found guilty of it. She only served 11 months. He said the reason that she would be put away for this because there's not a law for words, or because she wasn't physically there. She didn't stop him getting out the car. He made that conscious choice on his own. But the fact that she told him to get back in the car is where the judge said, no, this is where the prosecution's coming in around it. I'm going to go on and do the spirit box just shortly. It's a very, very interesting case where this man obviously felt very suicidal, or I would say not suicidal, I would say very, very depressed. He lived in his head a lot, and for some reason this girl got into his head, and I don't feel she set the intention to do that to begin with, but with the obsession with Leah Michele and the Corey Monteith and just the dates and things like that, it's very, very strange. It's like it looks like it has been premeditated, but I think what's happened is she's got so fed up of him texting and needing picked up all the time that she's just been like, yeah, whatever, to the point, if you're going to do it, do it. And again, I can only speak on the psychic side of me, but that's exactly what I got through this full case. What I feel sad about is it's 2 young teenagers at 18 that have both effectively lost their life. She could never recover from her actions, probably something really, really stupid, maybe didn't expect them to do it. I'm going to come to my conclusion properly in a second. I'm going to put the spirit box on next though. If you've not dealt with the spirit box before, it can be quite triggering. It can give you a little bit of a headache. Pop your headphones in, but do not worry if you want to turn your volume down when I do the spirit box. But I rely on my lovely loyal subscribers and followers for commenting below what you hear, just to help the other guys or new subscribers coming in. It does help you build a picture. I'm going to ask the spirit box, was she on the phone when he passed? That's the big question. The phone calls obviously match up, that she called him back at 7:12 and was on the phone for 42 minutes. Was she there when he passed? Now, she's said it to Sam Boardman, which probably got her the charge of being guilty in the first place, was because the message that she wrote to Sam. I do believe that it was likely that she was on the phone to Conrad. It's a very, very sad case. I have a daughter at 19 myself, and you think to yourself, we can be very silly at that age, and I think this girl came from a very fortunate background where maybe she just didn't understand what life was truly about, maybe in a bubble, very, very fortunate, where she didn't realise that bad things do happen. Let's do the spirit box and we'll take it from there. Again, please subscribe. We're on all other platforms, the link tree's in the description. Yeah, but let's get into the spirit box. And again, if you don't like the spirit box and you're leaving us at this point, thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe and ring the bell to so you get a notification when we hit the live button. So let's do the spirit box. So firstly, Spirit, if you're with us or Conrad is with us, could you please speak through the spirit box or give us some sort of message?
Everything.
12. Right, okay, 12th of July. Conrad, did you take your own life? She was there. Who was there? Conrad, did you want to kill yourself? Michele Carter. Do you blame Michele Carter for your death? Trouble. Bitch. Who's the bitch? Do you have anything else to tell us about this case?
No.
I did hear there somebody is a virgin, but I don't know what they mean. Do you have any messages from anyone round about you, or anything else you can tell us before we finish this case? Please comment below if there's anything you can hear. West something. What is Michele Carter's fate going forward, Spirit? It's a very busy spirit box. Name Natasha. Thanks, Spirit. Go. My conclusion in this case is that two young kids, 18, dealing with bad mental health, both of them, and probably segregating their cell enough that they believed their own thoughts. We speak about the snow globe and the picture's clear, everything's great. As soon as we start snow globing, we lose the picture. We start believing our own thoughts in our head, and they're not always worthy thoughts. I do believe the video a month before Conrad passed was a video to prove that he did want to live, but I think the situation he was in with his mental health was that good days and bad days. And I think with the texting from Michele Carter and her living in his head would have just been a fuel to the fire. But I do truly believe that it was a 75-25 situation. I want to say that she didn't truly believe that he was going to actually do that. And I feel like she gets so caught up with the Leah Michele thing that she wanted to be that. So when she was pushing him at the end, just do it, get back in, got him back in the car, is because the reaction from the friends the 2 days before that she realised that all this attention she was going to get. I think when the police officers were undercover at the charity event was probably the police already knew that she was responsible, or because they'd seen the messages, they'd already said it was a cause for concern. But it's true what they said, that they had to go there to make sure it was her phone and although her mum's name and things like that. I feel very, very sorry for all the parents involved. Again, something so silly in the sense that a texting session where you just expect your child to be texting their friend, you don't want to invade their privacy, but it just shows you at times that it's where we're doing it, we're checking in our children. They're allowed to have bad days as well, just like we are. We expect our children to be happy all the time, and we think that anxiety and depression gets in later life, or trauma brings that in. Some people just have natures like that, and it's about how you learn to deal with it. And I think that's one of the biggest things in this case. That girl was well hated. Now, to be 18 and to be so well hated at that age, I can't imagine and what she went through on that side of it either, which is going to cause further mental health. But to Conrad's family and Conrad, that is such a poor boy that really, really suffered in life, and it's such a shame in the end how it ended. And when you do take your own life, you leave the pain with your family, and you can certainly see that in the documentaries around this with his mum. His mum is absolutely heartbroken. He had two lovely sisters that you could tell absolutely adored him, who are absolutely heartbroken with the situation. And again, they obviously very much hate Michelle Carter, which you can understand why people do, but we still have to remember she was as much as a child as what he was at that point, and the reality was they were probably both just playing with fire and did not expect, and that's what happens possibly with younger people in suicide. They don't really grasp the reality that once they're gone, they're not coming back. A very, very sad case, but a case I was looking forward to cover, because the interesting fact on it as well is that this girl got 15 months, for her words. She wasn't physically there, but she got done for involuntary manslaughter. And it's a question that we should be asking, and what we should be speaking about is social media, trolls online. If that girl get done for that, how many people on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok could be responsible for people's deaths every day with words? And it's very, very true. When you put your life out there, people say you should expect to be getting different opinions, but if we all changed a bit of the world where we just kept our opinion to ourselves and accepted that's our opinion and everyone else is allowed to be different, it's definitely a talking point, but also it adds weight to the fact that there should be more done around social media, around hate, around trolling. Just again, and there's a better grasp on it now than it has been, but we have to do better. And this case kind of proves that as well. I hope you all enjoyed the case. I have again Linktree. I'm getting all technical. Well, I'm not really. My daughter showed me how to do it. But thank you so much. All my social media is down there if you're looking to book a reading. I finish up, that's why this case is going out. I finish up, and that is me September. I cannot wait. But thank you again for subscribing. Thank you for watching the videos. It is greatly, greatly appreciated for all your comments and your feedback. Please all stay safe, take care, remember and subscribe, the usual YouTube drama. Take care, stay safe.